Hello, hello, counselors. Let's get started.
Do you know what happened?
Got an extra book. I'll bring
Okay, go read it.
cross my name off actually.
All righty, here we go.
I got extra book.
Counselor Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam President. I have 9A. It's a local law just allowing the installation of a water pipe in the at the airport. This item should be ready.
Thank you. I have item 10, and that item is ready. All righty, let's see. Now we're on to Counselor White.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 11 and 12, and they're ready.
Thank you. Counselor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 13 through 18. Mary, if you want to just walk us through 17.
$17, you said? Okay, what I found out on 17 is I emailed you guys probably an hour or so ago. But in last year we approved a pole attachment for Verizon, and that was at the ordinance standard was $500 per permit fee. So this one is the exact same type of thing. So we feel that's according to law, it's setting a precedent for a single pole attachment, which I think is a reasonable fee. It's what was in our previous ordinance. It's when they have the multiple poles in one permit application that it's going to become possibly an issue.
So that's
17.
yeah. So do you recommend we hold it then till we get further clarity on it?
No, I'm comfortable with the $500 permit fee for the one pole. Our review was less, did not cost more than $500.
And does this kind of, I guess the precedent is already established by the FCC. I'm just kind of curious if this puts us into any further.
Well, Joe Barry advised me that it would set a precedent for the single pole attachment permit. If we get a permit with multiple poles to be evaluated, we haven't set the precedent for that,
Okay.
which would be a more costly review.
So, but we are setting the precedent for the single, but you and Joe feel comfortable with what the precedent is as
Yes.
as it lies.
And that's what was in our ordinance. Previously, that was rescinded. We had proposed a $500 permit fee.
And that's what
And the
that's what
FCC,
the FCC has come with a similar number.
the FCC's, yes, except that the FCC's ruling is that a $500 permit fee for up to 5 poles, and then if you have more than 5 poles in your permit application, is $100 per pole. So essentially, it could be $100 per pole, $100 fee per pole, which is potentially problematic.
Okay, but these are at
Of
$500.
$500.
These are $500 a pole.
The previous one last year and this one today is $500 for review of one pole attachment.
And Mary, my understanding too is the FCC ruling requires the city to act upon an application within a certain time frame. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yep. 60 days from the date of application.
Okay. Do we know when this application was put in?
Well, this one was submitted back last summer when they asked for the full franchise agreement. And then I believe it was in November that they submitted the permit application. And we were finished our review of the permit application, but they didn't want us to put it on the agenda, probably because of the FCC ruling in January. So in January they said, okay, we'd like to proceed. And these are the changes we'd like to make per the FCC regulation. So, it's been stop and start, and it has not been our fault because they asked us to stop.
Do we know what the penalty is if we don't comply within the 60 days?
I think they can take us to court, and I think also it can be just automatically approved. Right, Sarah?
So
But first they have to take us to court.
So they can automatically approve the poll for us?
I think after it goes to court, the court can rule it being approved.
Wow. All righty. What control do we have?
I guess the question is, when did the 60-day clock start, given all these back and forths? I mean, that's the question the council wants to know.
I'm not prepared to answer that in open session if you want to discuss anything further. My interpretation, you can get frustrated with me, but I'm a lawyer. We like to do things by the book, and I'm not going to put our client in jeopardy if I say something that's incorrect, particularly since I'm not working on this. But in terms of when times start and stop, as Mary indicated, this current one came to you for approval in January, so that would, in my interpretation, would start the clock. But I don't work for the FCC. I'm not handling this matter, and I can't definitively say one way or the other. But as they indicated, if you don't approve it, there's still the possibility it'll get approved regardless.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions?
Remember on Wednesday when it was, do we want shoes or not? And now it's, we're definitely getting shoes. Right.
And then what are the other items that you discussed? Because per the rule with purchasing the poles, we will only be purchasing the poles if we are the only service on that pole. So because mobility is, if you approve it or we get overruled or whatever, if they install a device on that pole, then National Grid will retain ownership of the pole, and we would just own the light and the street light arm.
So what does that do for us if there's more put on poles that we're trying to buy? How does that work? Then we can't buy those poles.
I guess that they'll be taken off the inventory.
That doesn't work for me.
So will there ever be 5G cells on the poles that we buy? What would they do? Because it seems like they're saying if they put one on, they're not
Only
gonna sell it to us,
poles
but-
that we own that they want to install 5G on.
So if they put up all the 5G before we purchase the poles, then we will not get the 5G. National Grid will.
Oh.
But it's only the ones they're able to install before we take over ownership. So it's like grandfathered in.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
Alrighty. And Councilor Carney is not here. So actually,
He said they were all ready.
yeah, I know, I see it. They're all ready, so I am going to call them unless someone has questions. Councilor Allen.
Thank you. I have items 24 through 50. Item 24 will be held for the public hearing this Wednesday at 5:30. Item 25, immediately following this session at 12:30, we'll have a committee meeting. Items 26 through 31 are all ready.
Can I go back for 1 minute, 31? Heather Owens sent out a email this morning that talked about rezoning. So would 31 fall into that rezoning? That's
No,
going on?
the planned institutional districts and the planned development districts are a little bit different. An institution is entitled to ask for a zone change because it's accompanied by a district plan. So it's different than someone else coming before you.
So they don't go under rezone?
No, I mean, the institutional districts, they can be, the institution can ask for them at any time. It could be before or after. It doesn't have to be, and in fact, it can't be part of the rezone because it has to be accompanied by a plan, a comprehensive plan that the institution submits, which I believe will be on your agenda next time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Thank
Good?
you.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, items 32, 33, 34, 35 will be held. Or did you want to move on 35? Okay. And the rest of your items you want to hold as well? Okay. All right. So item 36 is ready. And the following items I'll hold: 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, and 50.
All set?
All set. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam President. I have item 51, an amendment to the taxi cab general ordinance. That item will be held until we get further clarity on it.
Thank you. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.